and welcome to the first of the Predictabl football forums. I'm Shahab Mossavat. I'm joined here by Shaun Wallace, who is a football expert, winner of 2004 Mastermind.
That's correct, right? On football.
On football.
Yeah.
Welcome, Shaun.
Thank you.
We're also joined in the London Hippodrome by supporters of Arsenal Football Club and Chelsea Football Club. The two are... Feel free. It is a football forum after all. And the two are going to meet on Saturday at Stamford Bridge. And Shaun, it's a historical fixture.
It is a historical fixture. The first fixture took place in November 1907 when Chelsea beat Woolwich Arsenal 2-1. However, over the years, obviously Arsenal had the upper hand in terms of victories. And so far as the first Premiership victory in October 1992, Arsenal won 2-1, and we beat them in return in March 1993, 1-0.
I mean, before we dig too deep into what this particular fixture is going to have, let me just have your raw prediction for Saturday. What do you think is going to happen?
I think it's going to be a tight game. I think it's going to be decided by the Peter Cech factor, and I think that Arsenal obviously being third in the league at the present moment in time, playing good football. Chelsea obviously in the doldrums in terms of being 17th in the league, but I still think that given the record that Mourinho has over Wenger, I think Chelsea will just sneak it 2-1.
So you're expecting a big reaction from Chelsea?
I am, especially to gain confidence from the Champions League midweek win. So I do expect that Chelsea to actually come out all guns blazing. And
how do you think Chelsea are going to line up? Do you think that Mourinho is going to go for an alternative system, or is he going to stick with pretty much the formation he's had so far?
I think he's going to go for a different system now. Now that we've got a natural right back in Azpilicueta, and we've signed the new left back, I think we're going to have, in terms of the centre pairing of the defence, it's going to be Gary Cahill and Zuma, I think.
Anyone on the Chelsea side want to put something to Shaun?
How long have you been a Chelsea supporter?
Since the 20th of May 1967, and the reason why I started supporting Chelsea was because of the fact that I had an elder cousin who was a fanatical Spurs fan. And Chelsea were playing Tottenham in the cup final that day. No. Well, what it was that we had a black and white TV, and I wanted to support the team in the dark shirts. And although Chelsea lost that cup final that day, my love for them grew from then.
Yeah, fantastic.
So, Shaun, let's really grind down into the detail. Obviously, Chelsea won last night in the Champions League. I think some of the pressure has been eased off Mourinho as a consequence of that. Discounting that, is Mourinho potentially at the point of crisis if he loses against Arsenal?
No, I still think it's early days. Obviously, a team who starts strongly and maintains that good start will obviously have a better chance of winning the league. Especially in the sort of modern era of the game. But, you know, if you go back over the years, there have been teams, most notably Man United in the 85-86 season, when they won their first 10 games without defeat, and yet they finished, they didn't win the league.
Yeah,
so, you know, I think they finished something at 4th or 5th. So
Ron Atkinson's last season in charge.
It certainly was. And, you know, whilst, as I say, obviously the game's changed over the years, I still maintain that a club with Chelsea's players and Chelsea's pedigree, especially in recent years, will still be challenging for the league come April and May.
Well, let's turn to Arsenal then. I think a lot of the Arsenal fans were expecting this transfer window to be one of frenetic activity, and yet it turned out to be just Peter Cech that came into the club. Do you think Arsenal have missed an opportunity? Because going towards the close of the season, in the run-in, I think they were the form team. Everyone saw them as next season's potential champions.
Arsenal are one of these enigmatic teams. Either when they start strong, they have a tendency to fade. When they start badly, they have a tendency to come strong. I think the best opportunity they had to win the league was in the 2007-2008 season, when Eduardo, the Croatian striker, was bang in form. And when he broke his leg against Birmingham in a 2-2 draw, that seemed to actually take the stuffing out of Arsenal, and obviously they ended up finishing, I think, 3rd in that league. So far as Arsenal are concerned, they've made a good start. I personally think that the so-called pre-season treble, which they completed, i.e. the Premier Premiership Trophy, the Emirates Cup, and the Community Shield, lull them into a false sense of security. But the one thing I would say about Arsene Wenger is that he's fiercely loyal to his players, and obviously if they do deserve the right to actually see whether or not they can actually continue that good form that they had in pre-season. And obviously losing the first game to West Ham took a bit of a shine off, because obviously Peter Cech had one of those off days. But I still think that he will prove crucial in the end when it comes to the final reckoning so far as the Premier League is concerned, because he's a fantastic goalkeeper.
And that's the one thing that loyalty, that sense of loyalty, is the one thing that the two managers probably do have in common. I don't think there's much else that they have in common, but that sense of loyalty, backing the players, come what may.
Indeed.
Yeah. But do you think that maybe Wenger has gone too far down that line, and maybe he ought to now be looking outside his comfortable squad for something different?
I personally think that I had Arsenal strong favourites to actually win the league. I still think they'll be there and thereabouts if they had made a quality signing in terms of a good central midfielder and that sort of mythical 20-goal-a-season striker, plus Peter Cech. I personally think they would have taken some stopping.
So neither Giroud nor Walcott, a converted striker, are going to bridge that gap in your view?
I still think they can bridge that gap. I think Giroud has been vastly underappreciated as a striker. He still has his fair share in terms of scoring goals. Theo Walcott, to me, always has been an out centre forward, because when he was at Southampton he had that pace. I thought he was going to be the next Michael Owen. Okay. But obviously he was shifted out to the wing, and obviously so far as Wenger was concerned, he saw him as a sort of winger come sort of striker. I think he's now matured enough to actually being given the chance or the opportunity to take on that striker's role, as he proved yesterday when he got a consolation goal for Arsenal in the Champions League.
And they were down to 10 men.
And they certainly were, yes.
Okay. I want to throw it to the audience. Okay, there's a question there, but I want to put a question to you actually before I take your question. I saw a montage on one of the Arsenal fan websites that had Messi, Ronaldo and Di Maria in an Arsenal strip. Those three apart, who do you think Wenger should move for in January?
I don't think there are any number 9s available. I think Benzema was obviously talked about a lot, the obvious choice, but I think there is enough players in the squad that can create goals and score goals in Walcott and Sanchez. So I think really he should put his, as you said, he sticks his faith in these players, and I think he should do that, and then look for someone. Maybe Martial would have been a good signing, but United just beat us to it.
I think that's always been Arsenal's problem in terms of being beaten to the punch in terms of signing players. And I think the problem that's going to happen with most Premiership teams, especially with Euro 2016 coming up, is that the premium for the top quality striker, it's going to go up.
Because people are trying to anticipate.
Yes, either you do your shopping early, and as I say with Anthony Martial, world record signing £36 million
for a teenager.
He could turn into be the next Thierry Henry. You just don't know. But I still think that Arsenal's problem is going to be next season, when if you have a good striker who's had a fantastic Euro 2016, the premium is going to be at a minimum 50 million.
Over the last few transfer windows, Chelsea have actually been quite financially sort of strict, and they haven't sort of spent as much as they did when sort of Mourinho first joined Chelsea. Do you think there's been a sort of desire from sort of the higher levels of management at Chelsea to sort of watch the spending more than just to go out and buy necessarily?
No, I personally think that Chelsea, unlike Man City, were trying to stick to the financial fair play league, and I think they actually did that, and it really penalised City. What's disappointed me in relation to UEFA is that obviously teams like City and Real Madrid and the Barcelonas in particular showed how powerful they were. And it was a capitulation so far as UEFA is concerned, and we've seen a dilution so far as the financial fair play rules are concerned. Chelsea now clearly need to actually get back to actually competing in the transfer market, just like Man City successfully have done this season in terms of the signings they've made. It's going to be interesting to see how Kevin De Bruyne, who apparently is a Chelsea reject, who is now worth £58 million, how he's going to perform. I think he's going to do very, very well.
Yeah. Just on the subject of transfers and sort of the ever continued question of who is better, Messi or Ronaldo. If Chelsea could sign either Messi or Ronaldo in January, who would you sign and why?
I would sign Messi. 2 reasons. He's younger than Ronaldo. Purely he's younger than Ronaldo. And I think he's got better skills. He's naturally more skillful than Ronaldo. I think Ronaldo has been a fantastic player for not only for Real Madrid, also for Manchester United, and he's continued that. But if I had a choice to sign one of those players, it would have to be Messi, purely on age.
I just want to turn this before we go back to our fans. I just want to ask you, as a direct comparison, I think what you've told us here is that Arsenal's success this season, up to this point, has been rooted in the fact, or at least the fans have been suggesting this, has been rooted in the fact that they've played it through the middle of the park, they've used their midfield skillfully and produced goals from midfield, whereas Chelsea obviously haven't. Do you think Eden Hazard is missing at the moment?
He is, unfortunately, as are most of Chelsea's influential players. They are missing. Whether it's fatigue, whether or not it's the fact that other teams now have seen what Chelsea done last season and basically have tried to carbon copy their style of play. Hopefully, a player like of Eden Hazard's quality, will eventually shine through. I think to some extent he may have been dazzled by Mourinho's comment that in about 2 or 3 years' time he will be the best player in the world, but. If he wants to actually have that epithet, he's got to actually show on a consistent basis that he is.
Now, I've asked you this question before, and I would like to ask you it again. I'm wondering if you might give a different answer this time. Do you think Mourinho knows his best 11? Do you think Wenger knows his best 11?
Yes, I think both managers do know their best 11. The problem with all Premier League squads is that you've got 25 quality players, but there's only 11 shirts. But I still think a player like Mourinho knows his best 11, and it was self-evident that his team really changed throughout the season. And as I say, possibly the reason why they're struggling now is that fatigue factor.
And yet the Tinkerman, who rarely knew his best 11, sits in second place with Leicester City, an unfashionable side. So is there not a case, perhaps,
Always
that...
temporary.
Perhaps, but is there not maybe a case that Mourinho maybe ought to try and mix it up now, that he's perhaps being too loyal to players who are past their sell-by date?
I still think that every team must have a best 11. You've really got to know your best 11 players, and players are much more fitter than they were in years gone by. And I remember when Liverpool did the treble in 1984, they used 15 players.
That's right.
So.
Aston Villa used 13 in 1981.
Exactly. So I don't subscribe to this sort of Tinkerman philosophy. Although, as I say, so far as Ranieri is concerned, he was eventually proved right that in terms of if you actually rotate your squad to keep the players fresh, then that will be reflected in the results. And quite clearly, Leicester City are enjoying a well-deserved renaissance.
Okay, excellent. I think there were some points here.
You mentioned earlier about Peter Cech, and I think at this point everyone was talking, and even when the club, or the owner, I think misguidedly let him travel across London, but everyone and JT was being quoted in terms of that's giving Arsenal like 12 points. I think what it's actually done, 15 points then. I think what it's actually done is had an equal adverse effect on us, because you look at it now, and Courtois is now going to be out for like 3 months, and we don't have Cech to rely on. Our second choice just isn't up to that standard, and so what we're going to see there is it may actually end up costing us an additional 6 points on that.
It could do, but with a quality goalkeeper like Peter Cech, you can't expect him to sit on the reserve bench for another season, especially with Euro 2016 coming up. And whilst it was sad to see him go, I don't begrudge him the right to apply his football trade where he sees fit, and I think that Abramovich was extremely magnanimous in allowing him to go to the club of his choice.
But, this has happened generationally, hasn't it, at Chelsea? We had Cudicini before, who was an out-and-out number one. Then he was displaced by Cech, and then in turn Courtois has come in. So this happens regularly at Chelsea. Is it because Chelsea build in a goalkeeper as a fixture? Whereas, I mean, I think Arsenal's great struggle actually for since I think Lehmann left has been to identify a successor.
I think Chelsea had to make a decision in relation to Courtois, because Courtois obviously is one of the best young goalkeepers in the world. Do you loan him out for a fourth successive season, or do you give him what he wants, i.e. To be called a number one at the club of his choice?
I mean, it was evident that Atletico Madrid's La Liga title and their run to the Champions League final was to a large extent at Courtois' hands.
Well, he played, I wouldn't say at large, because obviously Costa was there, so, but he played a prominent role in that run to the sort of Champions League final and the La Liga victory. But going back to the point so far as Peter Cech is concerned, I still maintain that it's very, very difficult to accommodate two world-class players in the same position, because ultimately you're going to keep one completely unhappy. Whilst, as I say, he will make a difference so far as Arsenal's points total, and I think, as I say, he is going to be the key on Saturday. Ultimately, you can't really blame a goalkeeper of Cech's quality wanting to be known as the first choice goalkeeper.
Right. I want to before I get in, I will take some questions in a moment. Before we do that, I just want to take an unscientific straw poll. Who thinks Courtois is the better goalkeeper, and who thinks Cech is the better goalkeeper? Hands up, please. Who will go for Cech as the better goalkeeper of the two? Okay. And who thinks Courtois is the better goalkeeper? Okay, so on that evidence, if nothing else, I guess that Mr. Abramovich has probably proven right. And you're saying he's being magnanimous, but he's made that decision.
He's made that decision. I mean, he could have held Cech to another year of his contract. He could have, as Mourinho insisted, that Cech be sold to Paris Saint-Germain or Real Madrid rather than being a direct competitor, selling him to a direct competitor. But I still feel that a player of Cech's quality, given the service that he gave to Chelsea over the last 10 years, after all, he did save that penalty against Robin in the European Cup final. So that alone should, allow him to
save Roberto Di Matteo's job.
No, well.
No, I'm being glib. Okay, Sol Lipitz, who's a very prominent Arsenal blogger, would you like to give us your first question, your first points?
I'm not sure I call myself a blogger. I have written the occasional piece for Laguna. I just wanted to say I was interested that you expected both teams on Saturday to come out all guns blazing, or at least with a very positive attitude to the game, given that in the past Mourinho's devastatingly simple blueprint for success against Arsene Wenger has always been a very solid defence and ruthless punishing of Arsenal's mistakes on the counter-attack.
I call Mourinho the Portuguese George Graham, because when George Graham was successful in Arsenal, it was built on a solid defence and good counter-attacking players around him. And I still expect both managers, given the respective forms, Arsene Wenger in particular, will see Chelsea as a wounded animal, and will see it as a perfect opportunity for him to get his first ever Premier League win against Arsenal. So I do expect Arsenal to come out. I also expect Chelsea, given the fact that we're the home team, and given the fact that we do have attacking flair players of our own, to actually come out all guns blazing well. So I do envisage an exciting counter-attacking game from both teams.
So, given that Playable is the number one score prediction game, I'd like to ask our fans here if they're willing to give us a prediction of the score, and I'd like you to tell us why you're going for that particular score. Is there anyone? Let's hear from one of the Chelsea fans. Someone we haven't heard from before.
I think it's going to be a victory for Chelsea. 3-1, two of Falcao and one of Hazard and one of Giroud.
I think you'd get very good odds on that. So why do you think Falcao is suddenly going to flourish in the way?
I think it's time for Falcao to surprise the fans, given that Costa is not in very good shape. It's now or never for Falcao, given that he stopped for 2 years. since he left Porto. So.
And he was an astonishing player. I mean, the return that he had per game was I think more than one per game. Before he got that injury, I think he broke his leg before the World Cup.
No, he snapped his ligament.
His ligament. Do you think that they've taken something out of the player?
I don't know. It might be something on these transfers when he moved to Monaco and Atletico. He may not choose his club well. He should have choose a better club when he moved from Porto.
On the Arsenal side, any predictions?
No, it's like the famous Arsenal pessimism that kicks in like, with me all the time. Whenever we go to Chelsea, it's just like, you know, and if Mourinho's in charge, you always feel that he's going to sit back and, you know, we're looking at like a 0-0 draw.
You should try being a Spurs fan.
Yeah, I think we're looking at like a 0-0 draw, or maybe we might have some like that Charity Shield magic or Community Shield magic, because someone might correct me, and we might nick like 1-0 or something. But yeah.
So the impression I'm getting here, really, on the whole, is that the Arsenal fans are going there more in hope than expectation, and the Chelsea fans have a great deal of expectation but not much hope. Sean, I mean, seriously, let's project this into November, December, past the new year. Where do you suspect Arsenal and Chelsea are going to be? They're going to be one above the other, aren't
they? I suspect that Arsenal will be definitely in the top four. They're definitely a top four side. Whether or not they have the ability to actually break into the top two and possibly lead the league will depend upon their form players maintaining a consistency in terms of goal scoring, their defenders defending consistently, but more importantly, Peter Cech doing what he's there to do, save points for Arsenal.
I mean, Manchester City apart, and some of the lesser suspects, but I mean, Manchester City apart, out of the usual suspects, are the only ones that are really firing. Arsenal are doing okay, but the top four, Manchester City, Arsenal, you would say Chelsea. Who'd be the fourth one in that mix, would you say?
I would say it's between Manchester United and probably Tottenham Hotspur.
Tottenham Hotspur, not Liverpool.
No, Liverpool.
Okay, interesting. You've been watching the Predictabl preview. Thank you for joining us. Remember, Predictabl is the #1 score prediction game. It is available across a number of platforms, and I hope you'll take the opportunity to tune in and also to predict your own outcomes. Until next time, this is Shahab Mossavat. Thanking you very much for joining us, and thanking Shaun Wallace for being with us. Thanks, everyone. And